Hi guys, just thought I'd start again. I was messing around, but gonna just make a video talking about how Nosferatu is a great metaphor for narcissism, antisocial behaviour, manipulation, gaslighting, all those types of things. Because I think it's a very good example. And when I left, I thought to myself, that is a very good example to use. You know, the movie is brilliant at portraying how a vampire is extremely predatory, and you can use that in everyday life. And yes, I know vampires aren't real, but um, when you think of the word manipulation, what do you think? You do this, or else I will do this. You know, give me your wallet, or I will stab you. So you're manipulating someone into giving you their prized possessions. Um, or it could be something like people trying to blackmail money out of someone. If you don't give us X, Y amount, we will post a sex tape, for want of a better word. Um, keep saying for want of a better word, but you know what I mean. But that's a good example to use. It's like, we will use this embarrassing footage of you and we will post it if you don't do what we want and give us what we want. It's like, I know something about you that you don't want other people to know. If you don't do X, I will do Y. Does that make sense? That's what manipulation really is. You hear people manipulating shapes, and um, it's like they're making things go their way. You know, the odds are in their favour by doing certain things. So I want money. How do I manipulate the situation to suit me? Does that make sense? How do I get what I want from other people? And it's very parasitic, you know. It'd be alright if I could do what I wanted to get what I needed, without hurting anyone. You know, how do I manipulate the situation? That's another way you'll hear it being used. Um, like, I watch Richard Grannon. If anyone is looking for a good person to watch on narcissistic personality disorder in particular, he's a good one to watch. I like his stuff, but he uses vampires as a metaphor, which is what kind of got me interested in this in the first place. And I kind of thought, I haven't just watched the movie. That'd be a good place to start, you know. Um, Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Nosferatu, I will be giving away a load of spoilers. So just FYI, fair warning. But before I do that, the metaphor of a vampire as a parasitic person, because they live for nothing else other than to feed on the blood of the living. They can't survive without the living people's blood. You know, they have to get that or else they die. So they have to feed on you and me in order to survive. You know, they're evil, but they cannot survive without wronging others, you know. Because, like, I'm not fucking giving you my blood, and they're like, well, tough shit, I'm taking it. So, but do you see what I mean? It's like, you think of evil, you think of vampire, you think of the devil, the werewolf, and whatever. And in this regard, like Count Orlok from Nosferatu, who actually is Nosferatu, you know, the Nosferatu, which I never heard of being used as before. um, but he becomes this demonic beast, you know, the vampire Nosferatu, but his real name is Count Orlok. So that's the character I'll be talking about. Because he's an evil character before he becomes the vampire, you know. And so I'll get into it and just do the review. So, Lilly-Rose Depp, like, she is Ellen, and she's a troubled young woman, like, clearly mentally ill. You know, it starts off and she's plagued by negative thoughts, so that's very relevant to today, I believe. And she basically just starts crying out for, if there's a God there, please help me. And I mean, if you're mentally ill, I think you can relate to that. I know I certainly can. But then Nosferatu answers her call, and here's the best part, right? He starts off by being very warm and welcoming, so to bring her in, trust me, I will help you out. Like the snake in the Jungle Book, trust in me. I always thought that was pretty funny. Very soon, though, the voice becomes extremely menacing, and it sends shivers down your spine because you're like, oh fuck. We all know there's something bad going on, but she is so vulnerable, and that's the thing. The vulnerability is what gets used and abused. So you can see right off the bat, like, he is trying to prey on her, but he doesn't start off by, oh, give me your fucking blood. I want it now. No, it's like, well, I've got to entice you first. Like if you're going fishing, like quite literally going fishing, it's like you don't just stick the hook in the water. You have to put some bait on it, and that's what he's doing. Baiting. Now I know baiting is used in a different way, like a different context, but he's going, oh, I'll be your friend. I'll listen to you. I'm a higher being, but he's not a pleasant spirit. He's an evil spirit. So we see that, and then we get a jump scare. FYI, there's a lot of jump scares in Nosferatu. But then we see her years later, Ellen, and she's married to Thomas Hütter, which is Nicholas Hoult's character. And he is a real estate agent. And he has just, he's looking to become a partner in for a man called Herr Knock, played by Simon McBurney. So he's kind of eager to impress. He's got a new wife, and she's very troubled and very frail, so it's like he knows this, Nicholas Holt's character, Thomas, is a very caring character, a nice, pleasant man. He doesn't diss her, even though people are like, oh, she's mental, she's fucking tapped. He always loved her, and she sees him as the saviour. And I almost think of it, I think there's a lot of good examples. Like, that seems quite borderline, a borderline woman. You will save me, you are the best thing in the world, and she can't live without him. And he knows this, and because he's so caring, that's what motivates him. I need this money to support my new wife. We plan on having kids and big house, so I need financial incentive here, to look after my family, which is honourable, but Herr Knock, Simon McBurney's character, tells him, oh, here's a big deal, because he's late for his first day of work because he's speaking to Ellen, Lilly-Rose Depp's character. So Thomas speaks to Ellen. Ellen's kind of pleading with him not to leave her and all this stuff. And I wish she didn't have to go to work. He's trying to look after her. But he goes off, and then Herr Knock tells him there's this eccentric, frail, old man, Count Orlok, who lives in Transylvania, past Bohemia in the mountains. And he asked that you go and meet him specifically, because Thomas is like, well, why do I have to go and see him? Why can't he come to me? Oh, he's too frail to travel. He's a fucking demon. The fact of the matter is that he can't leave the castle, which we'll find out later. But Herr Knock tells Thomas that, oh, if this deal goes well, he's willing to pay a lot of money for it's called Schloss Grünewald, a decrepit old property, like it's a shithole. But that's the thing, he's amazed, or he appears to be, because Herr Knock is a wrong'un, as we'll find out. But he goes, he's willing to pay top dollar. He wants to retire in Germany, so that they could set in a fictional town in Germany, Wisborg. So he promises Thomas all these wonderful things, and he's willing to pay a great commission, all this money, beyond your wildest dreams. But the kicker is you have to go all the way out to fucking Transylvania to meet him. So, I mean, Thomas reluctantly does, and he goes out, and he stays in a town full of Romani gypsies in a little cottage. And they all fear Count Orlok. Count Orlok is a bad egg. The local people are like, no, he's evil. He's not a good person. And they tell him that he's mad and he's insane for going up and meeting with them. Nothing good ever happens. And a Romani woman even begs him not to go. And she hands him a crucifix, and she says, "Once his shadow is cast over you, you can't escape." Which is a very good metaphor, isn't it? For like, once a narcissist gets you in their midst, they've got you, and it's very hard to escape. And she tells him, but I mean, there's a good motivation here. Like, he wants to provide for his new wife, who's frail and emotionally vulnerable. Appears a lot, as you say, like a borderline person, which a narcissist will prey on gladly, which Count Orlok does. But he sees the Romani gypsies like pretend that they're going to sacrifice a young virgin to Count Orlok. But they're actually doing is they're luring the vampire out, and they're killing it. And it kind of was a bit weird. It seemed like it was a nightmare. I don't know whether it actually happened. There's a bit in it that you can kind of think a different way about. You can read the description of it or the plot, and if you know the fictional character, even better. I didn't really, but I knew it was based on Dracula. But anyway, Nicholas Hoult's character Thomas wakes up, and he goes up to Count Orlok's castle, and it's a very dark and menacing sort of environment, I would say. Sorry, I won't say. Like, it's creepy black forests, and a horse and carriage come and pick him up. Now, when I read the backstory into the film, and it says that Count Orlok pretends to be the coach driver, and there's a reason for that, because it's a big, creepy castle, massive, huge, and yet there's no staff around. There's wolves chasing the carriage, big, scary looking wolves, which belong to him. He has a demonic spell on them. They're part of his organisation, for want of a better word. I said it again. But like that, they work for him. He, when you read the backstory, Count Orlok was a black magician, so he practiced all these, dark magic and black magic, and he was possessed by the devil himself. When you read into it, nerd alert. But he gets to the castle, and there's this creepy, menacing looking character, which is Count Orlok, and he's a terrifying looking character. Like, he's got the long bony fingers and the long nails. He has a very deep, thick Romanian accent. And he's quite assertive, like, you will address me by this title, you will do, and he's asserting his dominance, basically. He tells me he was late, it's past midnight, and all my staff are, like, all my servants have gone to bed for the night. Because, originally, like in the story, it's where is everyone? Like, this is a huge castle, clearly you need people to maintain it, but there's nobody here, just me and you. I know if I was going there, I'd like to know that there was some humanity around. But yeah, it's quite an intimidating presence that he has, and Count Orlok is using this to his advantage completely. Like, it's very dark, it's very creepy. He asserts his dominance, as I say. It's like, no, you will call me this, and I will, because I'm going to pay you a lot of money, so you'll do as I want. And do you see how that links up? Like, he has manipulated the situation to his advantage, just like a predatory type person would, like a narcissist would. You're in my castle, literally. You will do as I say. I'm going to pay you money, so if you don't do what I want, I'm not giving you that money, and then you're not going to be able to provide for your family and all this stuff. I think it's a great metaphor to use. Little do we know the situation that's about to unfold. But then an even better one, is Ellen starts having hallucinations because Nosferatu calls out to her, and she has nightmares of what's going to happen. She begs Thomas not to go in the first place. When he says that he's going to Transylvania, she begs him not to go and says, "I've had visions of our wedding, but it's not you that I'm marrying, it's a demon, and everybody, when I turn around, they're all dead." I mean, I'd be very fucking freaked out. I'd be like, "No, I'm not fucking going. I'll stay with you and we'll be poor together." But no, it's understandable, isn't it? It's like you've got a family to provide for, so it's like I can't just say, "No, I'm not going. This is our future I'm thinking of." So he's in a bit of a predicament. I love you and that's why I'm going. You know what I mean? There's a huge financial incentive, but she obviously has visions and doesn't want to be left alone. So he takes her to Friedrich, his best friend, who seems like a good guy as well, and he has a pregnant wife and 2 daughters. And he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, but you can tell that he's not quite fond of Ellen because she's fucking mental. For good reason. But she has seizures and all, and she wakes up in the night, and yeah, she is she's certainly an unusual character, put it that way. But nevertheless, he looks after her and brings her out for walks with make her sound like a dog. But to look after her. He's a merchant. I think he owns shipping vessels. But Ellen's behaviour gets worse and worse, as Thomas is in Count Orlok's castle. But when they're actually signing the contract, it's written in a old, ancient, demonic sort of language, which Count Orlok says is my people's language. And then he takes out a big bag of gold coins and says, "Of course, your commission." Which is like, there's a lot of money there. He's paying him well, to be fair, but he's not paying him for the property. What it actually says is, you sign over your wife to me. There's an old rule where something like, where you have to willingly sign her over to me. But that this is actually one that I really want to focus on. So Thomas has a locket, with Ellen's hair in it. Bit weird, I know, but to remember her by, she insists he take it with her. He take it with him, sorry. Count Orlok sees it, and like, he's really like a creepy fucking character, and it's just him and Thomas, and you can see you kind of can put yourself in Thomas's shoes, and you're like, I'm rattling here. But because Count Orlok is in his property, where he rules the roost, he's a very creepy character, very menacing. He's also going to pay Thomas a shitload of money. So Thomas needs to sign this deal, and he's also eager to get the fuck out because he's so intimidated by Count Orlok. It's like, can I see that, And have you ever been in that situation, where someone is trying to intimidate you, and you are scared, like you're genuinely shitting yourself, and you're like, yeah, But Count Orlok says, "Oh, can I have a look at the locket? Can I see it?" He doesn't demand to have it, which I think it's interesting, because when someone kindly asks, "Oh, can I have that for a sec? Can I have a look?" But he keeps it for himself. and looks at it and is like, oh yes, that's my bride to be. So Mr. Steele, yo bitch. But I think that's a very good example of when someone is really intimidating you. They're trying to really test the waters with you, and they're going, oh, give us a look at that, let me have some. I want some of that, give me that. Um, it's not that demanding necessarily, but it's like, I rule the roast. And they say, can I, because they're asking politely. If they demand to have something, it's like, no, you were rude. But if I'm not being rude and I ask very politely, it's like, oh, well, why not? And then I start getting a bit more menacing. And then Count Orlok gives him, I thought originally it was blood. I think it's red wine. He gives him a glass of it, and then he gives him a loaf of bread to eat. And they sit down and dine together in front of the fire. Thomas cuts his finger on the knife as he's cutting the bread, and it's almost like he's like, this is a really good saying as well, because I think, like when a predatory type person spots a weakness in you, well, when he cuts his finger and a bit of blood appears, Count Orlok's eyes light up. It's like, oh, I can't resist the urge. And I remember watching Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves. And Keanu Reeves is, the cutthroat razor. I was terrified when I was haven't used one in a while, as you can tell. But he's shaving himself with it and he cuts himself, and Gary Oldman is trying not to, let him know that he's a vampire. But he says, oh, you've cut yourself, let me look after that for you. But he's there licking the razor, because he can't resist. And that's what these predatory types are like. They can't resist preying on vulnerable people. And I kind of thought it's interesting how Count Orlok doesn't kill Thomas, but rather keeps him alive and feeds on him while he's in his castle. He sucks the blood out of him, because Thomas wakes up and has teeth marks on his chest, and he's like, oh, what the fuck? Right next to the heart. And I was there thinking, oh, isn't it normally, it gives me the creeps even saying it, but man, Butters just gave me a hickey from South Park. But he's feeding like right next to his heart where the blood is pumping. And he keeps him alive and keeps feeding off him, like a steady supply. Think a narcissistic supply, I'm getting those vulnerable people coming to me and I'm feeding off them, I'm getting the energy off them. Energy vampire. Remember Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows? I love that shit with Matt Berry and Demetrio, Natasha, or yeah, is it Natasia or Natalia Demetrio? She's Greek Cypriot, but you know which one I'm talking about. Colin Robinson and that. He's an energy vampire. They're vampires and he's an energy vampire. He's Colin from Accounts, where he feeds off your soul. He bores you to death, and then when you're worn out, you can see him. I thought it was very good. It was very funny. But you can kind of see the similarities, can't you? Sorry, one moment, please. Count Orlok sees that blood and he's like, oh fuck, an opportunity here. And then he keeps Thomas with him, feeds on him. And then when Thomas says, I feel sick, I've got to leave, it's like, no, you must rest up until you're well. No, I'm afraid I must insist that I leave. No, I won't have it. I'm keeping you here because I want to feed on you, and I also want your wife, so Thomas tries to kill him when he realises what he is, but Count Orlok has fucking vampire strength and he grabs the pickaxe off him when he tries to kill him in his coffin as he's arresting, and I didn't actually realise this, so it's kind of insinuated, the root word, but they kind of make out like, yeah, he's being violated by Count Orlok, which he is. I checked it, and he defiles him. But feeds on him as well, just a steady supply. And this is after he has the contract signed, so we learn that Herr Knock, Thomas's employer, who promises him the world, and all this, it's a bit of a creep, which we find out at first, but with Ellen being quite beautiful, what he says is, oh yes, your bride-to-be, and all this stuff. And he's kind of lusting after her, and Thomas is too polite to go, you're a bit of a creep, and also, it's his employer he's trying to impress. Herr Knock has been doing Count Orlok's bidding, because we see him naked, like writing in his own blood, on a pentacle, like a demonic looking symbol, and saying, my lord, and that's Renfield from Dracula, which I remember seeing before, and I thought those characters are very similar. The stories are all based on each other, but Dracula came first, written by a great Irishman, Bram Stoker. Nosferatu came second. But Herr Knock basically is a worshipper of Count Orlok's, and is like, once the Nosferatu comes, I will be rewarded. So you think of the flying monkey thing that's used, the person who does the narcissist's bidding for them. Well, Herr Knock is basically that. He's in a position of power as well, and he uses all these things to say, yes, master, I will fetch you the husband of your bride-to-be, because he has to get the written consent, basically. Even demons have rules. But you see how Count Orlok promises Herr Knock the world, manipulates him, but then he manipulates Thomas by going, you will go and do this deal, and then I will get you to go to Count Orlok's castle. You go and do that. You sign over, thinking you're signing over the deed to a property after Count Orlok has paid your commission. Whereas in reality, you're signing your loving wife over. And then he leaves Thomas in the castle, Count Orlok does. Herr Knock goes fucking apeshit and starts running around eating pigeons and rats and all. Bites the head off a fucking pigeon and ends up in the nut house. Renfield in the movie Dracula is just in the asylum. You never actually see him out and about roaming, causing fucking damage. But the same storyline, essentially. And when Count Orlok goes to Germany to find Ellen, because now he has the consent, but he needs Ellen to also say, I divorce my husband. It's basically like a divorce, but she has to finalise it and say, I no longer love my husband. I will pledge my loyalty and love to Nosferatu, Count Orlok. And he says, if you don't, I will bring the plague upon all of Visberg, which is where they are, the fictional town in Germany. And so that's what he promises. Like, he comes over on a plague ship full of rats, but it's actually written in the movie that that's what Nosferatu does. He will bring a plague upon the land. That's what he does. So he brings the rats with him on the ship. He kills all the crew. He feeds on them. He ships himself over in a shipping container and then feeds on the entire crew. The ship crashes. It's actually owned by Friedrich, Thomas's friend, who was now at his wit's end with Ellen because she's fucking levitating and she's gone completely insane because Orlok is about to arrive, and the Nosferatu with that. And then Willem Dafoe's character, von Franz, the brilliant but seemingly insane alchemist and philosopher. He believes in the occult, and he's right because he says Ellen is possessed, but we must destroy Count Orlok's resting place or else we can't destroy the demon. But he says to Ellen secretly, this doesn't end until he gets his bride. And because Thomas has signed over the marriage, essentially. Unless you pledge your allegiance to Count Orlok, you will all perish. Because Count Orlok says, I will kill Thomas. And I will kill everyone in this town and I will destroy it, I'll bring plague upon it if you don't do as I ask. She, defies him by having. It's kind of a weird scene, I'm just going to say it, but her and Thomas have sex because she's like, do you not love me? And says, you signed me over to Count Orlok. And he's like, I didn't know what I was doing. And he's like, I do love you and I've done all this for you. And they have rough sex. But that's an act of defiance towards Count Orlok. So what does he do? Well, he breaks into Friedrich's home and he kills his 2 girls and his wife, Anna. Obviously devastating Friedrich, I have to say. Like, the poor man went through a lot in that movie. But it's like, okay, you didn't do what I wanted. I'm going to do this. You think this is bad, it's going to get worse. Very, very narcissistic, very predatory, very antisocial. It's a great metaphor, isn't it? Like, he causes untold destruction if she doesn't do as he asks, and eventually she gives in to his demands. She has to, or else the whole place will be destroyed. So she sacrifices herself. Basically, she says to Willem Dafoe's character, Von Franz, I will do it. And he doesn't say, you have to do it. He goes, okay, I'll lure Thomas away. He says, we're going to kill Count Orlok. We're going to murder him. They end up killing Herr Knock, who was in the coffin. Having been promised the world by Count Orlok. Now, he's in his coffin and gets stabbed with the stake through the heart. Bit of revenge for Thomas, but unfortunately Nosferatu has his way and they burn the coffin to the ground, so that means he's done, but they also have to give up the bride to him, so Ellen dies and sacrifices herself. And it's a very good movie, very well made. I know I've gone a long-winded way, I've given you a lot of details, so it's like doing a movie review, but I think it's a great metaphor for antisocial, like a psychopath narcissist, because Count Orlok manipulates every situation to get what he wants. It's like, I'm not coming here, you come to me. I'm going to give you a lot of money, I'll make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. You're in his domain. Thomas is scared shitless. Thomas is a vulnerable young man who was trying to look out for his wife, trying to get their future built. Count Orlok offers him all this money. Herr Knock does his bidding. And then he just intimidates him, he frightens the living shit out of him. You can see how menacing and cunning he is. Because there's such an incentive for Thomas to get that contract signed. He's promised, like, if you do this one thing as well, it's one thing that you have to do and your future will be set. You and Ellen will never want for anything. And you can become a partner of this firm. So, that's a huge thing, that's basically a career, steady income and a lot of money to start off with. But you can just see little things throughout the movie where Count Orlok is asserting his dominance. You're in my castle. There's nobody else here. It's just me and you. Sit, have dinner with me. And he's constantly lurking over him, and he's a very eerie presence. Like, he's a tall, bony man who breathes very heavily, has a very deep, powerful voice. And what he's doing is just establishing the ground rules, and he can see the fear, and he's obviously feeding off that in a way. Jesus, Bill Skarsgard really loves playing dark characters, doesn't he? Everybody was saying it, Pennywise and now Nosferatu, but did a very good job, I have to say. But it's that, you're in my domain now, you're in my castle, owned by me, I'm going to give you money, but you better do what I want, call me by my title. It's My ancestors are noblemen, so you will call me by my title. You'll do as I say. I know you need me, I basically decide your future. I have that power over you, That's the last place you want to be, is in debt to a predatory person like that. But I think it's a very good one to use, because people who are like that, getting away from the movie a little bit, but without sucking your blood, they suck the life out of you, If you need someone who is highly narcissistic and manipulative, that's a very dangerous place to be. And I think this movie is actually a great metaphor for that, because, untold destruction. Poor Thomas loses the love of his life, and your heart does go out to him. It's actually a very good storyline. I think it's very well made. I really enjoyed it. And the narcissist gets what he wants in the end, really. Now he dies because the sunlight hits him and he fucking melts, but he gets the bride that he wants, Ellen sacrifices herself to save everybody else, and she feels intense guilt that she brought this upon everyone. But to be fair, she's a mentally ill young woman. This is before she met the love of her life, And sadly, that's the truth in a lot of cases where these predatory types get what they want, because they're not bound by rules like you and me. They don't care about hurting someone's feelings. They will kill children. Which was a very tragic scene in the film, where he's just holding up one of the daughters and feeding on her, and it's like, oh, you're a fucking evil individual. But he basically goes, you think this is bad, it can get a whole lot worse, believe me. And that's kind of going, I have the power here. I have ultimate power over what happens. You better do what I want. You want to defy me? Try again, see what happens. It's basically, you think that's bad, you think you've gotten one up on me. I can go even further. Don't think for a second that you have any authority here. I rule the roost. That's exactly like what these predatory types will do to you. So if you do go out and see the film after watching this, keep that in the back of your mind, use that as a metaphor going into life, because it's a very good one. Very good one, These people will rise to the top, If they're already in a position of power, even worse. They have something to leverage over you. That's what you have to think as well. These narcissistic, antisocial types, if they have any position of power over you, they will fucking use it. They're like, you need me, you need me. So don't forget that, If you don't do what I want, then bow down to me and basically admit that I am your superior in every way. I'm not going to give you what you want. I have the shiny gold coins. You need my shiny gold coins. So you will come to me, you'll do as I want. You'll come to my domain where I am the boss. I'm not coming to you, I have what you want. You want it? Well, you can do exactly what I want, or else you're not getting it. Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Ooh, it's so exciting. As I say, very good movie, and I think there's a very good message in it. And I'm not the first person to say it, people who have a lot more mental health knowledge than me have said it too. Predatory style people are like vampires. Instead of sucking the blood from your veins, it's giving me I told you I'm squeamish around blood, but instead of doing that, they feed off your soul. They wear you down that you'll feel exhausted dealing with them. Any bit of power or authority they have over you, you're going to feel them using that, because that's leverage. Anything they can use to leverage you. When you think of, and if you've ever researched it, the covert style, the grandiose are the ones who have the power, and they're like, I have this, you need this, oh, I'm in a great position. The ones who are covert, I heard a theory like that they're just as bad, but they don't have the leverage. So what they'll do is, like with Thomas being such a caring individual, in a way, Ellen does manipulate him or tries to with sympathy. Because he loves her, he wants to make money for her, but she's there going, oh, I can't live without you, I need you. And I think it's kind of another good metaphor is like contrasting styles of manipulation. I think the borderline is they're genuinely like, I love you, don't leave me, I am nothing without you. And she feels it, and there is a lot of similarities, I will say. Not going to use my own mental illness in this one, but I'm going to say you feel so sorry for Ellen because you're like, she is so vulnerable, and Count Orlok took advantage of that. Now Thomas is a good human being, and he's trying to provide for her, but he's trying to do the best he can. He needs money. I think she's pregnant in it. It's never really made clear, but when the doctor, Dr. Severs, played by the Dashya man, the fellow with the really deep voice, he starts putting ether over her face to make her sleep and making her wear a corset. Now, I don't know how doctors worked back in medieval times, but I hardly think that they give a pregnant woman a corset, but I can't really remember. Talk about a baby. Now, I think I'm getting it mixed up with Anna. Anna is Friedrich's wife, and she definitely was pregnant, and that's what they said. Willem Dafoe's character, Dr. von Franz, says this man is evil. Anna was with child, and Count Orlok knew this. So it's not just bad enough that I've killed two innocent little girls. I've killed a man's wife who was also about to give birth to a child. I will do anything, Don't think that I'm bound by any rules. I will do whatever it takes. And in that way, like, Ellen is very vulnerable. She needs Thomas to protect her. She cannot be left on her own. She can't self-soothe, and in a moment of weakness, Count Orlok got the better of her, and now he calls out to her. And then he calls out to Herr Knock, who does his bidding. It's like he promises him the world, and then gets him to take his place in the coffin, and then he gets killed as a result. Now Herr Knock is a fucking demented individual, definitely looks psychotic and is hallucinating, But yeah, a lot of good metaphors for mental illness in Nosferatu. It's not just a vampire movie. I recommend it anyway, even if you are just into vampire movies and not mental health. But if you are into mental health, check it out. There's definitely some good ones in there. Narcissism being probably the main one, and that predatory style that a vampire has, but also borderline with Ellen, like she's literally screaming in pain, like there's a lot of emotional pain and suffering, which is very common with borderline personality disorder. And you often see narcissists preying on that because, like, oh, you need a saviour, I'll be your saviour, but you will give me something in return. I've done all these things for you, you're nothing without me. Because they can't self-soothe, so it's like, I will do it for you. But I'm high and mighty, I have all this power. You're subservient to me. I'll tell you I love you, which the borderline needs. They crave it. In the same way that the narcissist craves prey. And it's an extremely toxic relationship then as a result. It's a topic I really thought would be interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And thanks for watching, guys. It's something that I thought I'd just make because it got me very interested. And lately I've been making a lot of content just talking about the difficulties with being Irish, and it's a bit upsetting. I know it's a bit heavy. This is a bit more of a fantasy type thing, but also with some serious context, So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.